MVP. Golf swing, right field. Forget about it. Rangers strike first. Goes after the first one. Drills a high fly ball. Left center field. This game is tied. From Javier. Seager hits a high fly ball. Deep right field. A bomb into first. One swing. Drive. It's tied. Seager smashes the ball. Down line. Goodbye. Now Seager to right center field. Way back there. Shot again. Corey Seager does it again. It's Texas Rangers win the World Series. The Willie Mays Most Valuable Player Trophy presented by Chevrolet. Is there any doubt? Corey Seager.
Hi, and welcome to another edition of Right on Rangers Live, coming at you on a Wednesday. Feels like it's been a minute. I don't know if it was the TikTok ban or what, the 1 day, 12-hour moratorium, whatever it was. But we're back. Live was not working for us for a couple of days. I don't know if everybody was having that problem or it was just me being silly, not figuring it out. But glad to be back with all y'all. We got a pretty good show planned for today. Got to go through yet another Rangers free agency disappointment. Of course, I'm sure all of y'all know by now. Kirby Yates signing with the Dodgers. That one hurts. But Kirby Yates to the Dodgers, I guess we probably shouldn't be surprised with the offseason that the Dodgers are having at this point in time. We're going to get into the Kirby Yates signing, talk about it, give you my thoughts on just where the game is at right now in general with the Dodgers making all of these moves. I've kind of already let loose on it, but I'll reiterate once more for the people in the back. And then we've also got a few things to talk through. Rangers Fan Fest over the weekend. Some interesting quotes, some interesting musings, I think, from Fan Fest as different guys got interviewed, Chris Young included, lots of Rangers players. And then we'll also talk a little Hall of Fame voting as well. And I'm not too happy about it. I know a lot of people aren't either. We know that Ichiro, of course, is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. How he is not a unanimous first ballot Hall of Famer, I don't know, but we're going to get into that as well. Thank you so much for joining us. Of course, here at Right on Rangers, we cover everything sports, but we put a big emphasis on all the teams we love from the great state of Texas, including the Rangers, and especially the Rangers, even in the MLB offseason. Thank you for choosing Right on Rangers for all of your Texas Rangers content. As always, we'll get to your questions and we'll get to your comments along the way. You guys help make the show fresh. You help keep it going, keep it interesting. Appreciate all y'all. Thank you again. So let's get into it. Kirby Yates to the Dodgers. I can't say that I had Kirby Yates to the Dodgers on my radar. I think with the Dodgers getting Roki Sasaki, the Dodgers also going out and getting a couple of other very big arms. Tanner Scott. Did anybody predict Kirby Yates to the Dodgers after they went out and signed Tanner Scott just, a day or two earlier? I think they had already gone out earlier in the offseason and re-signed Blake Trinan. The Dodgers, I think, were the last team I thought Kirby Yates would end up going to. But here we are. I got to say, I'm happy for Kirby Yates. He's going to a really, really good team. I don't wish any ill will for any former Rangers players. I think Kirby Yates definitely is giving himself probably the best shot to win a World Series this year. I don't think anybody can deny that. Baseball is a beautiful game in that you never know who's going to end up winning the World Series in any given year, despite the favorites that are listed at the beginning of the season. Look at the 2023 Texas Rangers that I proudly display on my chest today. Nobody predicted 2023 Rangers World Series. There were plenty of other teams that appeared to be front runners in 2023. The Rangers were not one of them. That is the beauty of the game of baseball. But on paper, I don't think there's any denying Kirby Yates, Dodgers, it gives him the best chance to win another championship. And I don't think he's actually won one. It might be him gunning for his very first, if I'm not mistaken. So Kirby Yates, happy for him. But in terms of the game of baseball, let's talk game of baseball here. I do not understand the logic, the argument being put out by people like Ken Rosenthal. I've heard Jeff Passan a little bit on this train of thinking as well. You hear a lot that everybody has the same opportunity to sign these players. Everybody has the same opportunity. I don't believe that. I don't think that every team has an equal opportunity in signing big name players and competing for big time contracts. Neither do I think it is fair to sit there and say everybody has the opportunity to pay an insanely ungodly luxury tax. You think about what the Dodgers are paying in luxury tax, it's insane. And that is not afforded to every single major league club. I don't understand at all how you can sit there and pass all this off as, well, the Dodgers are just spending a ton of money and nobody else is. At some point, it doesn't matter. At some point, you have to consider the fact that the Dodgers are in an extremely large market. Their TV contract is bigger than nearly every major league team's TV contract. The revenue that the Dodgers make is insane, being a big brand. And of course, credit to them, right? Let's not take it away from the Dodgers like they've been handed something. They've had to build this franchise up. It's an old franchise. I don't think you can totally not give the Dodgers any credit for building a juggernaut baseball franchise. That's what it is. But at the same time, to just mindlessly or thoughtlessly write it off as anybody could be doing what the Dodgers are doing, I don't buy it. And I don't think that it's a fair argument or a good faith argument. There are not 32 owners, or 31 in this case, other owners, willing to pay the amount of luxury tax that the Dodgers do. And why are the Dodgers willing to pay it? Very, very wealthy franchise and ownership group. Not every owner in the same position. Now, don't want to be a hater. If you can do it and you can do it within the rules, do it. I do the same thing. If the Rangers had owners with bottomless pockets, and we know Davis and company, wealthy people, billionaires, don't get me wrong. And I've said myself, and I've been critical of the Rangers ownership from time to time. What's $15 million more dollars? What's $20 million more dollars when you're a multi-billionaire? Now, it's not my money. Don't want to pretend like I've got it all figured out. But I can't say that I have totally been rainbows and sunshine when it comes to Rangers ownership not shelling out more cash. I think last year would have been the year to double down on a championship. Rangers didn't really do it. You did not see the Rangers double down last year in the offseason like what the Dodgers are doing this year. They just won a World Series championship, and now you're reloading at this level. This is what the Rangers should have done last year in 2024. The Rangers should have maximized their World Series window. I'm not saying it's over, but you had just won a World Series. Why not go all in the next offseason and ensure at minimum that you make it back to the playoffs? So I can't hate the Dodgers and the game that they're playing. I really can't. I'd do the same thing if I was a business owner. But the game of baseball, I think, needs some fixing. When it comes to the contracts, when it comes to all of the finances, the payroll, I don't know if there's an easy answer. There's been a lot of people offering their opinion. I don't see there ever being a salary cap. I know that that is something that a lot of people have thrown out there. I don't think that there's going to be a salary cap. I find that really hard to believe that the players would agree to something like that. I do think that maybe there's a salary floor. I think that could be an option. Teams have to spend a minimum amount. But at the same time, I don't know if that's going to solve a super team problem. The reality is guys as free agents can sign wherever they want to sign. And that's what Roki Sasaki, Kirby Yates, and so many other players that have signed with the Dodgers, Blake Snell this offseason, that's what they've decided to do. And I do think the other big thing that's going to come about after the 2026 season is the deferrals. The fact that the Dodgers right now are not paying the full $70 million that Shohei Ohtani eventually over the course of the contract will be making. The fact that that doesn't completely factor in and the Dodgers don't have to pay a harsh penalty right now in 2025, I think that is something that can be fixed and should be fixed. I think the deferrals absolutely have allowed the Dodgers to accomplish what they're accomplishing in this offseason. And I do think it's something that Major League Baseball is probably going to look into and potentially change before the new CBA. Can't hate the Dodgers and what they're doing. They maybe have found a loophole in the system. I don't want to say a cheat in the system, but they're working the system. They're not breaking any rules. I wish that my team had the ability to spend the amount of money that they are. Who knows if money really would have solved a lot of the problems getting some of these guys away from the Dodgers. For Roki Sasaki, it wasn't really about the money. It wasn't. Now, for Kirby Yates, I would say there's an argument, yes. For a Blake Snell, there might be an argument. Yeah, if somebody came in and offered him more than the Dodgers, maybe he does take that deal. Who's to say the Dodgers don't come in and try and one up right after he gets that offer from somebody else? But I still say, at the end of the day, Dodgers not doing anything against the rules. It's frustrating as a fan. I don't think that a lot of people love what the Dodgers are doing, except for the people living in LA and the Dodgers fans around the nation. I've said it so many times. The Dodgers really have nobody hateable on the team. The Astros, back in 2017, 16, they were a really good team. Cheaters, but they had some really good teams. But you could hate those teams. I don't know who on the Dodgers you really point to hate that guy. Freddie Freeman? Mookie Betts? Shohei Ohtani? I mean, who do you really hate on the Dodgers? They have nobody hateable, in my opinion. They're just a bunch of really, really good, nice guys. I mean, they're really good at baseball, and they appear to be really quality guys off the field as well. And to me, that's boring for the game. I don't know. Maybe there's a lot of fans that are going to be tuning in. The Dodgers are playing. I want to see them lose because they're so good. I don't know. I don't think it moves the needle very much, to be honest. If the Dodgers were actually a hateable team and they had players that you could hate, maybe I'd feel differently about this new evil empire, if you will. But I don't. I feel like the Dodgers have a bunch of really, really good baseball players that happen to be lovable, nice guys. And I don't think that that really gets a whole lot more eyes on Dodgers games or in baseball games in general. And for the people like myself that are watching, it's frustrating because you see that there is a little bit of an unfair advantage, not against the rules, but yet at the same time, definitely a disparity that the MLB should address in the coming seasons. There's my opening. Let's get to it. Comments, questions. We're going to try and get to everything here. I'm going to try and catch up with TikTok. Appreciate all y'all hanging out. Thank you so much. Love the cat. Appreciate that. Shane, what's good? Thank you. Let's go Sacramento Athletics. Hey, I'm gonna love when baseball comes to Vegas. Sacramento, look, that's gonna be a few years, but 2027, Rangers playing in Vegas. Now we're talking. Yeah, JJ, what's good, man? Yeah, Kirby Yates and Tanner Scott going to the Dodgers. I don't think anybody had that on their bingo card. Kirby Yates at his age may not be the closer that he was. You never know. That is kind of what I've said. I do think that there came a point where you definitely looked at Kirby Yates and you said to yourself, he had probably, I don't think it's really a debate. Kirby Yates had the best season of his career last year. The best season of his career. I don't really think that's super debatable. And he did it at age 37. He's now 38. What is the likelihood that he's going to duplicate what he did in 2024? I personally don't think it's really high, and I'm not trying to be a hater just because now he's with the Dodgers. I think those of y'all that have been listening for a while to me rant on and on about this kind of stuff, I've said I don't know if the Rangers should have gone after Kirby Yates this year. And in fact, Evan Grant in a recent article wrote that the Rangers never made a formal offer to Kirby Yates. Interesting, right? Rangers never made a formal offer to Kirby Yates at all. I think the writing's kind of on the wall, though. I mean, it really was appearing pretty obvious that it was not going to work out with Kirby Yates, barring the Rangers trading away either a John Gray, maybe a Leody Taveras, a Tyler Mahle to relieve salary. I don't want to get too like numbers and like analytical. It starts to get kind of boring, but essentially, here's the situation. The Rangers right now are at a $234 million payroll. If they go above $241 million, they will have to pay a 50% tax on the overage. So they're at a $7 million margin right now before they have to go pay that 50% overage. So they really do not want to go over that. Kirby Yates was always going to be getting more than $7 million a year. I mean, when Aroldis Chapman signed for $10 million and Jose Leclerc signed for $10 million, I mean, you thought Kirby Yates was going for anything less than that? Like, I don't know. For me, when Leclerc signed that $10 million deal, I felt like the Yates deal was going to be less and less likely, barring a trade, which to this point, the Rangers have not yet made. So interesting. Rangers don't offer Yates a formal contract. And with $7 million in room before they hit that $241 million point, you had to have a trade worked out in order to really make a Yates deal realistic. And for any of the other closers left on the market as well, I think you're going to have to do that same thing. Carlos Estevez, there was, I believe, somebody from The Athletic kind of was spitballing Carlos Estevez landing spots. And I believe the deal they had, it was Kerry Miller from Bleacher Report, my bad. Kerry Miller, Bleacher Report, was kind of spitballing Carlos Estevez to the Rangers for 3 years and $42 million. So what, about $14 million a year? And you've got to create $7 million more in space if you don't want to go over that $241 million mark. So I don't know. The Rangers, they're going to have to get busy on that trade block if they want to go get a closer. Let me keep going here. Let me get back to comments and whatnot. Let me say what's up to YouTube. Here we go. Let's go here. What do we got? John says, not too excited about the Yates to Dodgers. Didn't they just pick up Scott? Yes, they did. That's why Yates to the Dodgers was not anywhere close to on my radar. Okay, this is good stuff. John, appreciate this question. Closing by committee now, experimenting with the bullpen. Is there anybody left that we might get to close? So I think that Estevez could definitely be an option. Kenley Jansen is still out there. Again, I'm not saying that these guys should get signed per se. I'm just telling you who's available right now. And I think Estevez and I think Kenley Jansen, if you do want to go out and get a closer, those are probably the two best guys available at this point. Hate it, love it. I think those are the top two options. I could see the Rangers working out a deal for one of them, but you're going to have to trade somebody. And it's probably going to be a John Gray type or a Leody Taveras type. I know a lot of people wouldn't be too sad about Leody leaving town. I can't say I've run into a ton of Leody Taveras apologists, but you never know. I'm sure they're out there. But I do see at this point Chris Martin being the guy. I don't even know if you go closer by committee. You've got a high caliber arm in Chris Martin. Little scary that he's only done, 14 career save opportunities. I mean, Chris Martin does not have a plethora of experience saving games. Now, has he pitched in high leverage situations in the 8th inning? Sure. 8th inning, a little bit different than the 9th inning, though. I think we can all agree on that. So I think you got to go Chris Martin. I know Robert Garcia has been a name. Maybe if you got a bunch of lefties coming up in the 9th, you throw Garcia in there. I think that maybe maybe Josh Spores, when he comes back with that devastating breaking pitch that he's got, maybe you have a Josh Spores step in and close games. Spores, of course, going to be out the first couple months of the year. I can't say I feel great about it, y'all. I would tell you if I did, you guys know, I'm glass half full guy, but I really don't love the current construction of Rangers pitchers in terms of 8th, 9th, even 7th, 8th, 9th inning guys. I like Chris Martin a lot, but around Chris Martin, I'm not so sure. The 7th inning guy, which was a problem last year. I think y'all remember the 7th inning for the Rangers last year was nightmarish, completely nightmarish. And I think at one point the Rangers had like the worst run differential in the 7th inning in Major League Baseball. This was last year. So I can't say I feel great about the 7th or the 9th inning. I think we've got the 8th inning guy figured out. I would love for the Rangers to get an established closer. Maybe it's not going to come until the middle of the year again. So an interesting article I read, Jamie Newberg, one of my favorite Rangers writers, he was essentially spitballing Ryan Helsey, but not in the offseason this year. And I think he actually made a really good point, did Jamie Newberg. So, I mean, you're going to have to give up 2 really high-quality prospects to get a Ryan Helsey from the Cardinals. 2 probably top line, I don't know, best of the best, but 2 really high-quality prospects to get a Ryan Helsey. I really think that you'd be better off waiting and giving that up in the middle of the year when you're more assured of a playoff spot, when you feel a little bit better about your chances to make the playoffs. I don't think that's being negative or pessimistic. I think that's good business. If you're going to give up 2 big prospects to get a Ryan Helsey from the Cardinals to close games for you, make sure that you're going to make the playoffs, because you only would get him for a year. He'd be a year rental. So I think that in terms of trading for a closer, I don't think Ryan Helsey is going to be the guy that the Rangers want to spend prospects on in the offseason. Now, the only other guy that got brought up, this was another Jamie Newberg point, was I believe, Doval. Am I saying that right? I'm trying to think. From the Giants. Let me see here. There was one other guy. It was like the Giants closer, I want to say from like last year, not 2024, like 2023, like from last year. Doval, Camilo Doval. So he had an incredible 2023 with the Giants. And then in 2024, it was just rough, terrible. He had the second highest walk rate. Only Aroldis Chapman had a higher walk rate than Camilo Doval in 2024. He got sent down to the minors, but this guy has high velocity stuff, does have some nasty off speed, but doesn't control it and had trouble controlling it. A lot of teams around the league, I think, are interested. Doesn't mean that you're going to be able to work out a deal. I don't know what kind of prospects they would want for him, but that was the only other guy, Camilo Doval from the Giants, that Newberg threw out as a potential guy you might trade for. Ryan Helsey during maybe the middle of the season, maybe by the trade deadline, if you're going to give up the 2 prospects. Camilo Doval is controllable, I think, for like 2 or 3 more years. So it's a little bit different than Helsey, where you only would get him for the 2025 season before he becomes a free agent. So I don't know. I'd love to see the Rangers add somebody else. I'm not sure they're going to do it. Don't know. We'll see. But I'd love to see them add somebody else. Let me keep going. Aaron, what's good, man? The Dodgers buying all this talent is not going to buy them a repeat World Series. I don't see it happening. That is the crazy thing. Like, you really can never tell in baseball. It's the beautiful thing about the game. You can buy all the talent in the world. It doesn't always work out. It doesn't always work out. You can sometimes have injuries. You can have guys that don't live up to the contracts that you give them. That is the beauty of the game. Aaron says, can you just imagine the price of a hot dog now at Dodger Stadium? Yeah, look, I don't know how much they're raising their prices. I'm usually good for getting out to a Dodger Ranger game over in LA whenever they get out here, which has kind of been fairly recently in the past several years. Prices aren't there. Actually, aren't crazy expensive, but don't know what they're planning for 2025. Let me keep going. Irish, what's good? Payroll structure is ruining baseball, needs to be more like the NFL. I just don't see the players agreeing to it. I definitely think that you are going to have to make some tweaks, but I cannot see the players agreeing to a salary cap. I think they would stay locked out for a long time before they agree to something like that. Let me keep going. Yates wasn't supposed to be closer, but just earned the job. Very true. I mean, when Kirby Yates came into the season with the Rangers, they really did not anticipate him closing ball games. It just so happened to work out that way because he was the most reliable one. Jose Leclerc had his troubles. Josh Sborz was injured. So maybe, I think the point here, I'm just kind of on the fly, reading between the lines here. The point is, maybe there's a guy that the Rangers have, like Kirby Yates, unexpected, that could emerge. Maybe. Just maybe. Let's see. Also, how about our season last year went to shambles? We need a new owner. I think last year had really little to do, not as much, I should say, to do with ownership as it did with player regression and injuries. Yes, I would have absolutely loved to see the Rangers spend more money last offseason. Double down on the World Series, right? Do what the Dodgers are doing. The Rangers should have done last year what the Dodgers are doing this offseason, and they didn't. And I do think you can put that on the owner. That being said, I don't think anybody predicted just how bad some of the Rangers players were going to be in 2024. Jonah Heim being essentially one of the worst players in baseball, statistically speaking. Adolis Garcia having a very disappointing campaign after dominating the 2023 playoff run. There weren't a lot of people that had this all lined up in their predictions before the season started. So I'm not ready to torch the ownership. Definitely not ready to torch CY. I think last year is a bit of an anomaly. This year, you double up on the losing season. Now I think you're looking in the mirror a lot more harshly. But if the Rangers bounce back, make the playoffs this year, I think 2024 is going to be forgotten pretty quickly. And the Rangers hopefully will be back on track for a sustained 3-4 year at minimum run of at least making the playoffs and being competitive. Let me keep going here. Let me catch up with TikTok here. Josh Hamilton could have been one of the greats, man. Heartbreaking. You must have saw my vid that I put out a week or so ago. Love me some Josh Hamilton, man. He absolutely should have been one of, and I would say one of the all-time legends had he not run into trouble, health, drugs, all that kind of stuff. I think that his career would have been incredible. Like if you could get 17 years, 17 seasons of Hambone, what would those numbers look like? I mean, we're talking not affected by the drugs, any of the outside stuff that brought him down on his way to the big leagues and during his time in the big leagues. And of course, you guys know how I feel about that 2011 World Series. Hamilton's moment, his home run in that 10th inning, should have been the greatest moment in Rangers history. I will say that every show if I have to. Let me keep going. Every other year with Bochy. Yep, that is kind of true. With the Giants, Bochy was like every other year. I think it was the odd years, though, right? It was the odd years. So we're in an odd year. So it's a Bochy win a World Series year. Who do we put as closer right now? Probably Martin. I don't think the Rangers really have anybody else that you feel great about. I would say it's got to be Martin as your closer if you don't add anybody else. Yankees did it for years. Yeah, they did. The difference between the 90s Yankees and the early 2000s Yankees and the Dodgers, I don't know if it's the players. I don't know what it is. It just felt like that Yankees team was much more hateable. I don't know if it was just the aura, Steinbrenner, and just the nature of that team, the vibe of that team. But that Yankees team feels a lot more hateable to me than this Dodgers team. Like I said, the Dodgers are a bunch of really super nice guys that are excellent at baseball. And to me, that's not a big needle mover. I definitely think that the early 2000s, late 90s Yankees, and then the 2010s, the late 2010s Astros, really good. Astros, again, cheaters, but really good and hateable, which to me makes the game and makes baseball more interesting as a result. You love to have those teams that you just thoroughly enjoy seeing lose. Look, if the Dodgers lose, I don't think that I would be displeased. In fact, I'd probably cheer for them to lose, but I'm not going out of my way to turn it on. When the Nationals played the Astros in the World Series a few years ago, and the Nationals completed that epic comeback, I definitely was tuning in to watch the Astros lose. I can't say that I have that same feeling. You guys let me know if you feel differently. I can't say at this point I'm tuning in to watch the Dodgers lose. I'm going out of my way to sit down, spend an evening watching a World Series Dodgers game. Now, look, if it happens to be on, great. But I don't know if I'm going to my TV purposefully just with the intention of finding enjoyment seeing the Dodgers lose. The Astros, of course, right? The Yankees in the late 90s, early 2000s. Yep. The Dodgers in 2025, I don't know. Shohei Ohtani, the dog, just nice guy. Freddie Freeman and making the donations to the fires, and his son going through the heartbreaking medical stuff. Mookie Betts just kind of cool and collected and, doing the podcast thing. Fun guy. I don't know. The Dodgers they don't have anybody super hateable to me. They're just all like really nice guys that are good at baseball. Let me keep going. Texas Repo, my theory is they figured out people were onto them, so they let the Nationals win some games in that one. Look, your point is well taken. But at the same time, I think that we all can agree. Definitely not all in the up and up in the late 2010s in some of those playoff runs, especially. But look, point is well taken. 2021, I believe that year was when the Nationals beat the Astros. I don't know, maybe the video technology, the buzzers, and maybe, the trash cans being removed. It just changed it a little bit for them. I'm just playing at this point. We're just having fun. All right, let me keep going. Let me get back to TikTok here. Appreciate all y'all. Let's see. What do we got? With Sasaki signing, could Kershaw come home and pitch for us? Every year, I feel like we have this Clayton Kershaw. Is he going to come back to Arlington? And then he never does. So I got to be honest. If Kersh did end up coming to Texas and pitching for us, I'd love it. I don't think he's going to be anything like what he was 5 years ago, 6, 7 years ago, the most dominating pitcher in the game. Like, you're not getting that. But I love the veteran presence. I love maybe the back end of the rotation type guy that can kind of be an anchor, hold it down. But Kersh has been injured a lot over the past couple of years. I can't say I'm holding my breath on a Clayton Kershaw signing. Like, I'm just not. And I feel like every year it's a tease, and then he ends up just going back to LA. Like, if he ends up signing with the Rangers, sweet. I'll be pumped. That'll be great. We'll love seeing him in a Rangers uni. Of course, a guy that lives in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But personally, I'm just not wasting a lot of headspace thinking about Clayton Kershaw. Feel like he's just going to go back to the Dodgers anyways. We'll keep going here. Shoot. It sent me all the way to the bottom of the comments here. Okay, I caught back up. Sweet. Do I think baseball's rigged? No, too hard to rig baseball. I know you get the umpires and the questionable calls, but I think baseball is probably one of the tougher sports to rig from a league perspective. Of course, players could, strike out every time or whatever, but I don't think any player is doing that. It's really of no benefit to you. And you obviously will get in a ton of trouble for doing something like that. I think baseball is a really tough sport to rig. I think there are other sports that are easier. I don't know if I want to go tinfoil hat mode. All sports are rigged and get off on that tangent. I definitely think that every front office, every, MLB, NBA, NFL, every commissioner's office, I should say, is focused on making money. And sometimes they do things that are advantageous to that, if you know what I mean. but I definitely don't think there's some crazy, intricate rig job going on in any sports. Just my opinion. Prime Judge or Prime Bonds? That's not even a question, Alex. Prime Barry Bonds. In fact, let's get into Hall of Fame stuff. Hall of Fame voting took place. So you had Ichiro Suzuki, first ballot Hall of Famer. You also had Billy Wagner, of course, pitched for the Astros. I believe he pitched for what, like the Phillies and the Mets as well, right? Billy Wagner. I remember watching that dude. I was born in St. Louis and grew up like very early on elementary school cheering for the Cardinals. Moved to the Dallas-Fort Worth area in middle school. Fell in love with the Rangers. Just hard not to be a Rangers fan. All my friends when I moved to Texas were Rangers fans. Still have a soft spot in my heart for the Cards, but definitely have never looked back with the Rangers since moving to Arlington back at about the turn of the century. But anyways, the Cardinals and the Astros used to play each other in the NL Central. I actually would have like a bet every time with my uncle, who was a huge Astros fan. Rest in peace. But he and I would have a ton of fun going back and forth whenever the Cards and Astros would play each other. And I always remember Billy Wagner coming in, closing out games against the Cardinals. Just a flame-throwing lefty. I do remember one time Mark McGwire took him upper deck, Big Mac land, like just monster shot blast. And I was shocked as a little kid that somebody had actually hit a home run off Billy Wagner. So look, I have a lot of respect for Billy. Glad that he gets the call and gets the nod here. And look, to the other guys, to Ichiro and CC Sabathia, they very well deserved. CC, definitely a big game pitcher, a guy that I think a lot of people are going to remember his time with the Yankees, but definitely his time with the Brewers and the Indians as well. I'm sorry, Guardians. Don't mean to make that mistake. I don't know. They're always going to be the Indians to me. I feel like I can never get that one right, but I'm going to try. Back to the point. Ichiro, CC, Billy, all getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. I think all three of those are really well deserved. I do not understand Ichiro Suzuki not being a unanimous choice. Like, to me, there's no explanation. I understand that you have certain guys that have to be voted on in order to stay on the voting ballot. Like, for example, Ian Kinsler, he was on the Hall of Fame voting ballot this year. And I don't think he got 5% of the vote. You have to get at least like 5% in order to stay on it. I think he got like 2.5%. So look, he's not going to be on the Hall of Fame voting ballot next year. Ian Kinsler, done. So I know there were some people trying to make the argument, maybe the guy that didn't vote for Ichiro this year was using that spot for somebody else to keep them on. I don't care. I think that's totally ridiculous that Ichiro does not go in as a unanimous Hall of Famer. Derek Jeter, I felt the same way. To me, Ichiro is a better player than Derek Jeter. I would rate Ichiro over Derek Jeter. Just me. Maybe it's an unpopular opinion. I rate Ichiro, prime Ichiro over Derek Jeter any day. Prime Ichiro versus prime Derek Jeter, I don't think it's a question. I don't even think it's a debate. And Derek Jeter was one vote short on unanimous, and Ichiro suffers the same fate. I think that all voting ballots for the Hall of Fame need to be totally out in the open. Stop letting the writers be anonymous. I don't get why that's even an option. If you are voting in the Baseball Hall of Fame, I think every ballot should have a name attached to it. And then your credibility is at stake. I think being able to do an anonymous vote just is a little bit disingenuous to the process. Make everybody have to make their vote public. I appreciate the writers that actually will post their ballot for everybody to see, and they'll go back and forth with people, even if people disagree with them. I respect that a lot more than the people that make it anonymous. And there are some people voting on Hall of Fame matters that don't even cover the game anymore and aren't even making meaningful contributions to the game at this point. Like, in my opinion, even if you're not a beat writer, like, Evan Grant for the Rangers, beat writer, travels with the team. It's tough being a beat writer. Like, you have got to dedicate an absurd amount of time to covering the team that you've been assigned to, that you're working for. I don't want to say working for, but you know what I mean. So for me, you don't have to be a beat writer, but at least be a guy that's still doing some podcasts, still putting out some written content. Like, there are some people not even making meaningful contributions to baseball content that are getting a vote. I just don't even get that at all. Ichiro should have been no-brainer. Hall of Famer, unanimous. First ballot, great. I know that every time this happens, people just try and say, well, he made it. He's first ballot. I don't know. For me, I think that when there are these all-time legends in the game that come on the ballot, guys that are just so clearly Hall of Famers and first ballot unanimous Hall of Famers, I don't see how you miss the moment and leave Ichiro's name unchecked. That's the thing I think about. You've got the ballot in front of you. How on earth, if you actually watched Ichiro, does your pencil just pass over that box and not check it? Makes zero sense to me. Whoever left Ichiro off the ballot should never vote on Hall of Fame matters again, and I don't even care what the excuse is. There's no excuse. And going back to my point, that person, anonymous. Right? It was an anonymous voter, not going to actually attach their name to it. I find that super weak, cowardly, and I don't think that it should be allowed. Every vote should be public. You should have to answer for your vote, and you should have to be making a meaningful contribution to the game of baseball presently in order to maintain your vote. Don't have to be a beat writer. You don't have to be traveling with a team, but you at least have to be contributing to the game in some way, shape, or form. And you can't say that about all of the Hall of Fame voters at this point. Let me keep going. I'll go a little bit more on Kinsler here. I think you look at Ian Kinsler's numbers, and as much as I love Kins, look, I do think the Hall of Fame voters got that one right. I don't think that Kinsler is a guy that is Hall of Fame worthy. Rangers Hall of Fame, absolutely. But I don't see Ian Kinsler as a guy that needs to be in the Hall of Fame. When I think of Ian Kinsler, I think really good player. I don't think of Ian Kinsler Hall of Famer. I love Kins, love everything that we got from him in his years with Texas. But let's just read the stats out loud, and you tell me. I mean, that's what I always like to go to. Right, so this is a career 269 batting average hitter, 337 OBP, 909 career RBI, 257 homers, came within one hit shy exactly of 2,000 hits, so 1,999 career hits, 54.1 WAR. That, I think, is definitely significant. 54.1 WAR in however many seasons he had, 14 seasons. You're averaging what? I'm trying to do the fast math on that. About 4 WAR per year. That's pretty solid. But I still don't think Ian Kinsler deserves to be in the Hall of Fame based on these numbers. I think you put Kinsler in, you start watering it down a little bit. I think about, and I'd be interested in the Jeff Kent comp. I wonder if I can pull up both of their numbers side by side, if I can do the compare. But I think that there are some second basemen out there probably with some better numbers than Ian Kinsler at this point. I would like to see maybe Kins up against a bunch of the great second basemen that are already in the Hall of Fame and just see how it stacks up. But I don't know if it's going to be very revealing or if it's going to change my mind at all. But I will say this, just going off of my initial thought, Ian Kinsler, love the guy, love everything he gave to the Rangers organization, but I just don't think Hall of Fame. You guys tell me if I've got it wrong here, but I just don't think Hall of Fame when I think Ian Kinsler. Let me keep going here. Let's see. Prediction on Wyatt for 2025, solid 3.5 WAR. Absolutely. I do think this is a year Wyatt is going to be a 25 homer guy, get over 25 steals. An elite year would be 30 for 30, like 30-30 club. But I definitely feel like 25-25 is within reach. So I'm very bullish on Wyatt Langford this year. I'm not saying he's going to be an MVP, but I do think he's going to continue to get better and be a big reason the Rangers make it back to October. Carl, agree. Don't even know who it was. Probably never going to find out who didn't vote for Ichiro, but it's a disgrace. What's good here? Let's see. Sorry to get off baseball. Are the Cowboys really going to hire Schottenheimer? I don't know. Nothing's going to shock me with the Cowboys. I would not be hiring Brian Schottenheimer, but nothing is going to surprise me. More on the Cowboys later. We'll try and stay focused. I can get off topic, get off track just about anything, but we'll talk a little Cowboys later on. Right about Kinsler. Okay, some of y'all agree. I love Kinsler. I'm not trying to be a hater, but again, you just kind of have to say things out loud sometimes. Ian Kinsler, Hall of Famer. I just don't hear it and I don't see it. He had some really, really good years. Clearly a guy that averaged a decent WAR over the course of his regular seasons, but just don't see it. I don't know. Maybe some Rangers fans out there will disagree with me, but I don't know. I can't see it. Let me keep going here. So other comments that I missed out on. Let's see. Texas 2026 college football title or Rangers World Series? Which one's more likely to happen? More likely to happen's got to be Texas Longhorns winning it all. I can't say Rangers World Series next year is more likely than a Texas Longhorns national championship. Longhorns back-to-back years in the semifinals. You got Arch Manning. Rangers, I'm not saying I don't like their chances, but I just don't think that Rangers winning it all is more likely than the Longhorns winning it all. That's a good question. That's a good question for sure. Keep going. Let's see. Are we talking about Walcott here? Pushing Seager to DH? Is that who we're talking about? I don't know. I'm trying to go back and read it as quick as I can. I think that Walcott's definitely going to be a guy that comes up eventually in the next couple of years, probably starts in Double-A. I don't know what they're going to do with Corey Seager. I hope that Corey Seager can continue to play a really solid shortstop because, look, you don't know what's going to happen with prospects. I talked about this on the show last week. Like, there's a dark side to all the hype with some of these MLB prospects. They get up to the big leagues and you expect them to be Mike Trout in his first year in 2011. Bryce Harper, his first year, also 2011, just lighting the league on fire because there's so much hype and so much buildup. And then it ends up being a little bit of a disappointment when they are just kind of a decent everyday player. So I definitely hope Corey Seager continues to light it up for several more solid years at shortstop. I am not praying for Walcott to get here any sooner because you just don't know if Walcott is going to come up and actually kill it in the big leagues. Like I said last week, the probability of an overhyped prospect becoming a perennial all-star, I can't say it's great odds. Becoming a really solid everyday player, sure. Becoming an all-star, an all-time great, no. So I'm definitely appreciating the Corey Seager years. When Walcott gets here, I hope that he kills it. But I am going to be careful what I wish for. I hope Corey Seager has several more outstanding seasons at shortstop for us before we have to get forced to move him or do anything else different. All right, we keep going here. I think 95 to 100 games is going to be pushing it. I think the Rangers can absolutely win 90. I think that the Rangers are definitely going over the Vegas total of 85.5 for what they set for Rangers wins this year in the over-under. I think 95 to 100 is probably pushing your luck just a little bit. That would be a crazy dramatic improvement. What the Rangers didn't even win 80 games last year. So you're talking about winning 17 more games. I mean, look, maybe it's not as far-fetched as I think it is. I think the Rangers are going to be somewhere around 90 to 93 wins. That would be my best prediction, 90 to 93. If they can get to 95 or 100, God bless them. I'll love every second of it. I do think 95 to 100 is probably a little ambitious. Let's see how players bounce back. Talk to me at the end of maybe May, and I'll have a better idea of if I think we're going to get to 95 or 100 just based on the first 2 months of the year. Right now, I'm going to say pretty confidently, I think they get to 90. I think between 90 and 93, that would be my best guess here. 90 to 93. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Don't have opinion on the Hall of Fame. Alternate Rangers hats are heat. Yes, sir. I've got a number of Rangers hats. I think y'all have been able to tell that. I've got probably 10 plus different Rangers hats, and I'll continue to add to the collection. I was a little disappointed, getting off topic a little bit here. I was a little disappointed in the All-Star Game hats. Do you guys remember those? I was a little disappointed in the All-Star Game AL hats. Now, the NL, I love the NL hats for the All-Star Game. I wish that I could get the Rangers logo in the NL colored theme. Did not love the All-Star Game American League hats. I usually always love to try and check something like that out. Every time they come out with something new like that. I'm a big time hat collector, but I could not get on board with those All-Star Game hats. I don't know if y'all know what I'm talking about. I'll try maybe and post it a little bit later. It was a no for me. Maybe there's some of y'all that really loved it. It was a no for me. Keep going. They win an 80? Nah, definitely not. They definitely win in more than 80. They're having a winning season this year. Cannot see the Rangers not having a winning season this year at minimum, but I think they get over 85.5, no doubt. No doubt. All right, let's keep things up here. We got a few other things to kind of close out the show. Let me go through some things that I noted. Y'all know before the show, every week I do a little research, read as much as I can, watch as many different podcasts, try and gather information for you. So here we go. Back to Ian Kinsler. He received 10 total votes for the Hall of Fame. So that was 2.5% of the ballots. That was first year of eligibility for Kins. You have to be named on 5% in order to stay on the ballot. So he's going to fall off next year. I do think Evan Grant put it well. It's an achievement to be on the ballot at all, and another to receive votes. And I don't think this was all just homers voting for Kinsler. Evan Grant did vote for Ian Kinsler, by the way. I don't think those 10 voters were all just Rangers people. There were definitely some voters outside of the Rangers world that voted for Ian Kinsler. So I agree. It's a huge honor. You got on the Hall of Fame ballot, Ian Kinsler, and you got some votes for it too. Ian Kinsler had a great career, no doubt. So let's keep going here. Here is Ian Kinsler's thoughts on the closer situation. Ian Kinsler. Evan Grant's thoughts on the closer situation. Long day, y'all. Forgive me. If they do add somebody, Evan Grant says, it's probably going to have to be via trade, and it's probably going to have to cost them a net of $5 million or less in additional salary. St. Louis may be looking to scale back payroll, but would seem to prefer doing it with the Nolan Arenado trade. If the Cardinals can't do that, maybe closer Ryan Helsley, who's due to make $8.2 million in 2025, becomes an option, right? Rangers are at $7 million right now for like margin before they hit that $241 million tax threshold. So you're talking about $8.2 million for Helsley. You can make $1.2 million in space, right? But only if the Rangers can offload a bit of money in the deal. Leote appears headed for a bench role and will be making $4.75 million. Maybe there's something there to discuss, Evan Grant writes. So I think that Ryan Helsley is interesting, but I go back to Jamie Newberg's point, which is if you're going to have to give up two pretty significant prospects for Ryan Helsley, why not do that middle of the year after you are more assured, hey, we got a good club this year. We're probably going to make it to the playoffs. I do like that mentality. Here was Bruce Bochy, by the way, just talking about moves. The Rangers, we just talked about the closer situation. Here was Bochy at FanFest. He said, I'm not sure CY is ever done. He's constantly looking for anything that will make this club better. He's always talking baseball, not just with us, but with the other clubs. So I can't say that he's done. That was Bochy at FanFest. And then here we go with a couple of other next moves quotes, if you will. It would make sense that Kirby Yates awaited to see what would happen with Tanner Scott. And I said this, once Tanner Scott signed, everybody else's market would probably start to open up. Didn't think Kirby Yates would be signing exactly where Tanner Scott signed. But now you've kind of got an established ceiling. You've got Tanner Scott signing for his deal. You've got Kirby Yates signing for his deal. Now you've got Kenley Jansen, Carlos Estevez. You've got those guys able now to gauge what they're worth in the market. You've got Leclerc making $10 million, Chapman making $10 million. So with the high-end guys now established, and I would say the mid-tier guys established, I wouldn't be surprised if the Rangers start to make a move in the closer department. Maybe they're going to stick with the guys that they got, but it wouldn't surprise me now that Yates, now that Tanner Scott are off the table, and you've got a lot of the mid-tier guys already establishing their contracts, that you would have an Estevez or a Kenley Jansen find their new home in the very near future. Okay, so a couple other things. Let's talk Jonah Heim. Jonah Heim, a guy statistically, we talked about this earlier in the show, one of the worst players statistically in baseball. He has been in the lab this winter trying to retool and work on the swing. Spent a lot of the winter with Ecker and Veely, the, of course, offensive coaches for the Rangers, hitting coach as well. I hope that Jonah Heim turns it around this year. Higashioka is a great ad. I love the Higgy signing. And I think that that is going to be most helpful because catching 150 plus games as a major league catcher is hard. And I do think eventually it starts catching up with you in the offense. Maybe that's what happened to Jonah Heim. Maybe not. But I do love seeing Jonah Heim working hard this offseason, trying to avoid what happened last year. Last year was an abysmal year for Jonah. It was hard to watch because I think Jonah Heim is one of the great guys in the game, but he needs to be better this year. And if he is, that could be a huge unlock for the Rangers. There are a number of guys you can sit there and say to yourself, man, if we can get 2023 Marcus Semien back, if we can get 2023 Adolis Garcia back, or even like halfway in between 2023 and 2024, what kind of team could we be? I think you could say that for a lot of Rangers players. That to me is encouraging, but at the same time, you say to yourself, is it going to happen? Or are we going to get more of the same? That's the concern. Okay, we keep going. So a couple of other things. Adolis Garcia, speaking of, Evan Grant was doing a little bit of writing on Dolly, kind of like, what's he working on? What went wrong last year? So Evan writes, a year ago, an extra hitch at the start of Adolis Garcia's swing when he tilted his bat forward a bit before bringing his hands back made him later on the fastball. Adolis Garcia really struggled with the fastball last year. Evan writes, Adolis Garcia has never been a tremendous fastball hitter, doing more of his damage against off-speed stuff, but from 21 to 23, he still timed up enough to do significant damage. Last year, pitchers had no fear of him, Evan Grant writes. His .310 slugging percentage against the four-seamer ranked 190th out of 195 who saw at least 500 four-seam fastballs. So essentially bottom 5 in the league against the fastball when it comes to slugging percentage for Dolly. You can't get a whole lot worse than that. I mean, I guess like 4 spots worse technically, but you know what I mean. You shouldn't be able to do much worse than that. So my hope is that they've fixed the swing, the hitch. Even Dolly said there was an extra movement. and we've worked to eliminate that, to reduce the movements. That's been the focus, straight from Adolis Garcia there. If that's true and they have fixed that little hitch that was causing him to be late on the fastball, watch out. And if he's fully healthy too, I know that was another thing we talked about with Dolly. Like, was he hurt? Is he injured? Why is he so bad? I think that if I had to make a conclusion now, he was just having a bad year. The injury excuse was nice. It was like a nice thing for us to say to maybe make everything feel a little bit better. But I think he was just having a bad year. And this kind of stuff that I read about the swing and the hitch and the movements that were extra causing him to be late, it all makes sense now. So hopefully it's been fixed, and we are going to see two brand new ball players, Jonah Heim and Adolis Garcia. Would love to see it. Let me keep going. Let's see. Next year's class is terrible. Oh, Hall of Fame stuff. I'm not even sure who's on next year's ballot. I'll have to check that out, though. John says, we talked about Adolis and his stance last year. Sounds like there was a bit of truth to what we discussed. Yeah, I definitely did a little breakdown of Adolis Garcia's swing. I actually got some crap. I posted it on some different Rangers like Facebook groups, and I posted it in a couple of different places comparing the swings. And a lot of people were like, dude, it's just a camera angle. There's nothing different. Stop being a hater. I was getting all sorts of crap for comparing the swings and how I was noticing some little differences. And there are some casuals. I'm not a baseball genius by any means. I do have quite a bit of experience when it comes to the game, both playing it and coaching it. I'm not a genius, but I can tell you this. Little things are everything when it comes to baseball. A small extra little movement in your swing can make the biggest difference in the world. So anybody writing off the little nuances that are different in a player's swing when they happen to be struggling, I don't say this a lot, but I don't know how well you know the game. Baseball is a game of very, very minor adjustments that can sometimes have very, very major results and produce major differences in results. So for me, I saw the difference in Adolis' swing from 23 to 24, wondered if there was something more there, and I think there was. Maybe I didn't nail it precisely, but something just felt different with the swing and the timing. And sure enough, right from the horse's mouth, Dolly says the whole focus this offseason was fixing the extra movement. We'll see if it pays off. All that hard work in the offseason, I sure hope it does. Yeah, flip side, let's talk about Josh Smith. Josh Smith, CY coming out and saying, I actually told y'all over the past couple weeks, I'm like, man, I don't know if Josh Smith is going to be able to find playing time. And CY came out over FanFest and said, I think Josh Smith can play 4 out of 7, 4 out of 6, maybe 5 out of 6, 6 out of 7 days. So I think their plan is to get Josh Smith quite a bit of ABs this year, which is great. I think that Josh Smith definitely deserves to be in the lineup, and I think that he deserves to be a key player in the Rangers' success this year based on what he did last year. Now, does he need to be hitting 3-hole? Please no. I love you, Josh. I don't think Josh Smith is a 3-hole hitter. As admirably as he filled in at the 3-hole spot last year, Josh Smith is not a 3-hole hitter. So I do hope that Josh Smith ends up sliding in somewhere, maybe in the bottom of the order. I can't imagine he's going to be at the top half with who the Rangers have right now and who they have coming back. But I think Josh Smith could be a great 7, 8, 9 hitter somewhere in there. I would love that. Could he be a solid like secondary leadoff hitter to Marcus Semien in the 9-hole? Absolutely. So I'm excited that Josh Smith is going to be getting some playing time and that they're going to be intentional about getting him in. Again, the quote from CY was at least 4 times a week, if not more. So maybe he is going to get those 400 ABs after all. I thought for sure he would maybe be on the trade block or maybe be a guy that just did not have a clear path to at-bats. But I'm glad to hear from CY that he is going to be getting some good playing time. He tailed off at the back end of 2024, let's be real. But then again, Josh Smith had never played that many games in a major league season. So I think it's fair to say, with an offseason of rest and with a year of experience under his belt, having played essentially a full major league season, might we see a stronger finish from Josh Smith this year? I think so. I think there's reason to believe Josh Smith is maybe not going to turn into an all-star per se, but there's no reason to think Josh Smith isn't going to keep getting better and better. All right, let's keep going. Chris agreed. Very versatile. I definitely think he is a big-time piece that the Rangers are going to value down the stretch. Guys need days off. A guy gets nicked up here and there. You're going to appreciate having Josh Smith. And they did say he can play first base. He can play outfield. I think they're planning on putting Josh Smith just about everywhere this year. So, hey, if you play fantasy baseball and you like the versatility, Josh Smith, maybe a little sleeper pick if you're in one of those bigger leagues. Just saying. And keep going here. We need a bullpen in outfield. I don't know how much more outfield the Rangers can really add. You've already got kind of a logjam there. I really don't know how much more outfield the Rangers are going to be able to add reasonably. Appreciate the follows, by the way. Thank you so much. What's the best for a closer? I probably would go with Estevez or Kenley Jansen. I want a bona fide, legit closer. I mean, I don't want to overpay, but for Jansen or Estevez, you might give like what, a 2-3 year deal at the most. Like, you're not paying these guys forever. I would rather go into the year, especially if you're planning on going back to the playoffs, having an established closer. I would probably rather have Jansen than Estevez. I think Estevez had good moments for the Angels. I think he had some struggles too. I would personally probably prefer Jansen over Estevez, but that's me. Thanks for the gift, by the way. Appreciate that. Thank you so much. Yates deal is still pending. Yeah, I know they got to do like the physical and work all that stuff out, but I can't imagine that falls through. Thank you for the follows, by the way. Appreciate all y'all watching. We keep going here. Peterson was a good pickup, but the bullpen has been needed work. Yeah, Peterson was a great pickup. I love the Peterson pickup, but I do think the bullpen needs another piece. You don't have that guy that can really lock down the ninth inning. Chris Martin is great. I love the Chris Martin signing. I would love to keep him in the eighth inning. Go get that ninth inning guy. We keep going. Yeah, for anybody wondering, yeah, I do kind of a simulcast, if you will. TikTok right here, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, X right in front. So if I'm not looking at you, I'm just talking to the other camera. But I try to bounce back and forth as much as I can. Yeah, Natalie, absolutely. I'm sure you're talking about Josh Smith. Given the day off once a week to certain guys is huge. I do think that that is going to be a big, big help to the Rangers staying healthy. Absolutely. So a couple other things before we close up the show. I watched Foul Territory. I don't know if you guys watched that podcast too. AJ Pierzynski's on there. It's pretty solid. I love baseball podcasts, obviously. And that one's one of my favorites. But they had Evan Grant on the podcast, and they talked about Jacob deGrom. So everything's going well with deGrom this year. And Evan said, essentially, don't be surprised if deGrom isn't throwing a lot out the gate. Like if maybe his first couple starts, he only goes 4 innings, 5 innings, and they just slowly build him up. And they do some built-in maintenance in order to make sure that he does stay healthy. Last thing you want is Jacob deGrom going all out right away and then hurting himself. So they are, I think, going to do some preventative stuff, some maintenance, if you will, load management to make sure that he does not end up on the IL or they don't have to shut him down. That would be, I think, the biggest thing to try and avoid with Jacob deGrom this year. Just get him in a groove where you don't have to shut him down and you do not have to start him all the way over with any kind of rehab work. So absolutely was encouraged to hear that from Evan Grant. Also, talking about Evan Carter. Evan Carter, all signs are positive for him as well. Back injuries, not an issue right now. Evan has been on the record being very optimistic about the injuries that he suffered. I said it a lot last year. Never great when you're 22 years old and you've already suffered 2 major back injuries. So I don't want to be the negative guy, the glass half empty guy, but I would say cross your fingers with Evan Carter. Back issues are extremely tricky and difficult, and it's just not going to shock me if there maybe is a little flare up here and there. I really hope to be wrong. Maybe it's not this year, but 2 back injuries by the time you're 22, concerning. I don't think there's any other way to put it. I'm hoping for nothing but the best for Evan. If he can be 2023 Evan Carter, that would be incredible. They did note on the show, even in 2023, Evan Carter struggled against lefties in the playoff run year, and he really struggled last year. Can he get over that hump and be a guy that the Rangers play every day, not just a platoon guy? I think you've got to do it and pull the trigger. Just take away the safety net and just let the dude sink or swim. He's your number 1 prospect, or was your number 1 prospect, and you're platooning him right out the gate. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I do hope that the Rangers, after maybe giving him a little bit of a time to kind of ease into things, I genuinely hope that they take off the reins and give him a chance to be an everyday player. I think that would be huge. All right, y'all. That's all I got. We will definitely, by the way, go live if anything big comes up. Rangers sign a big-time closer. Any other trades, we'll definitely try and go live, give some rapid reaction. Otherwise, Wednesdays are our day for Rangers off-season pods. It's been great. It's crazy that spring training is like a month away. Feels like the off-season's actually gone by pretty quickly, to me at least. I am really, really excited for spring training and for the season to get started again. I just want to say thank you to everybody, all the comments, and everyone that has offered up their 2 cents on different things that we talk about on the show. Helps keep the show fresh. I always say that. And it's why I started this to begin with. I love talking ball with y'all, so appreciate you. We'll probably be back again this weekend to do some football pods. So Texas Longhorns, Dallas Cowboys, probably will go live at some point after the NFL games to talk about the results and then give an update on the Cowboys coaching search. We'll do the same thing probably on Saturday for the Texas Longhorns. Now that the college football season has come to an end, we get into the offseason grind. We see some coaches moving around a little bit. And of course, we get to talk about the prospects for next year in August. Exciting stuff. So this weekend, we'll be back with those pods. Wednesday will be Rangers again, unless we need to do an emergency pod for a big trade or signing. That's our plan. Appreciate all of you guys. Hope you have a great finish up to the work week, Thursday and Friday, and a good weekend ahead. Come hang out this weekend if you want to talk football. Otherwise, I'll put out some short vids during the week, some reels and shorts, so that way we can continue to keep the positive momentum going. And then after that, Wednesday will be the next time we do our long form from Rangers. That's the plan. And as I always say to end every show, God bless and go Rangers.